Hello there everybody, it is me, XfreezerBunny, and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. So today we're building this traditional Japanese house. I've been thinking of doing this ever since I saw those room dividers from university that had a swatch that reminded me of traditional Japanese sliding doors, otherwise known as shoji screens. And now that I've gotten all of my university builds out of the way, I thought now's the perfect time to do this. I feel like not a lot of you guys know about this, but I'm a huge fan of Japanese culture, so I think this video is going to be interesting. I feel like I'm finally going to be able to talk about that side of me that not a lot of you probably know about. So for the most part, I did try to keep this build very traditional and very realistic, even though this was meant to be a contemporary home. By the way, Kominka is going to be the title for this video, and basically, Kominka just means an old house in Japan. Traditionally, these houses would have been built before the Second World War, and they would have been built using traditional Japanese building materials and building techniques as well. So, like I said, for the most part, I did try to keep it traditional, even though I also wanted this house to be a house for a multi-generation family. So I also wanted it to incorporate like contemporary elements, maybe some Western elements, because I wanted it to look like it has been renovated over the centuries to accommodate the lifestyle of its different occupants. So this house ended up having a total of 4 bedrooms. All of those bedrooms are fully furnished. There's one bedroom that's furnished in a more traditional style, and then the other 3 bedrooms are furnished in a more Western style. I would say Western, but still in a Japanese way, which you guys will probably understand once we get there. And this house also has one-ish Japanese bathroom. Now, I know this is going to be weird for some of you, but Japanese bathrooms are a little bit different from what Western people are used to, because the rooms are actually separated into different areas. So the bathing area is a separate room, and then the toilet is a separate room. In this case, the sink is also in a separate room. So technically it's 3 different rooms that are made up of the bathroom, but yeah, it's still just one bathroom, I would say. I'm not sure how to categorize that really. So deciding how many bathrooms for this house was going to be was a bit tricky. But here I am actually incorporating those room dividers that actually was the main inspiration for this build. And I'm really happy that we got those, but I have been so vocal about wanting to have like an East Asian themed pack for a long time, because I feel like just Asian stuff in general has been so lacking in The Sims 4. Like, I'm an Asian myself, and I feel like I need more Asian stuff. Like, yeah. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this build turned out. It's not a huge house, but surprisingly there's a lot of stuff in this. And I will say this now, but this is probably one of my favorite builds I've ever done. I'm maybe biased because I'm a huge fan of Japanese culture, but I just really enjoy doing this build as well, that whole building process. I also did a lot of research for this build. I did take up history of architecture, and I did have a course specifically on Asian architecture. So yes, I did study Japanese architecture when I was in college, but that was many years ago, so I did have to refresh myself, and I did a lot of research online and just reading up on some information, and that whole process was really enjoyable, I gotta say. It's also probably why it took me a very long time to finish this. I think it took me, I started building doing this like last week, so 2 weeks to finish this build. To be fair, it is a family home with 4 bedrooms, so you know, I also included most of the footage of me furnishing all of those bedrooms. Usually I would cut out some unnecessary rooms, but for the most part, most of the furnishings for this house have been kept in, except for like the cluttering part, which also took up so much time. But other than that, I kept in so much footage in this. This is also why this is a little bit of a longer video. It's around 30-ish minutes. I know that some people don't really like watching long videos, but let me just assure you guys that I spent so much time editing this video to only include the necessary parts. So everything you see here are the footage that I feel like is absolutely necessary to really get an idea of the essence of this build and to really enjoy it. I didn't also want to make a video that didn't include some of the interesting things, because I feel like there's just so much interesting stuff going on in this house that I feel like a lot of you will enjoy, and hopefully a lot of you will also appreciate as well. Now, we're working on the interior now, and there's a lot of wood. Traditional Japanese houses were made of wood and paper and grass, and I incorporated some traditional style Japanese rooms here, such as this tatami room. Tatami mats are basically floor mats that are made out of woven reeds and grass, and they are a very important part of Japanese architecture because the measurements for Japanese rooms are actually based on tatami sizes. So you also have to be careful with how you lay out your tatami mats, because if you don't do it properly, you'll get bad luck. So I had to be extra careful with the tatami for this build because I also wanted it to be very realistic. There's a certain way of doing the pattern so that you don't get bad luck, and hopefully I was able to do that. Right now we're doing some major changes to the exterior because I really wasn't happy with how it was looking initially, so I decided to add this like protruding balcony just to have some sort of interesting bit on this area because it was looking a little bit plain. So I added this protruding balcony, which I was really happy about. So yeah, back to this tatami room. This house ended up having 2 of these. One of these will be a bedroom. This one is meant to be like a tea ceremony room, or kind of just a formal, you know, like living area. There's really nothing here, to be honest. Nothing that's functional, I would say, even though I did put like some meditation chairs in here that your Sims can sit on. I did research on some uses for tatami rooms, and one of them was actually used for meditation, so yes. I feel like out of all of the rooms in this house, this one would probably be the most traditional. In my mind, this is where they would entertain like guests for more formal occasions, and I did try to incorporate a lot of, you know, traditional Japanese elements, such as this like shelf right here, or this like little alcove. You guys can see that one wooden post that's more of a natural looking post. That's usually a feature in these traditional tatami rooms. And here I am just decorating this alcove, which usually has a shelf and like a scroll displayed on it, but I didn't like any of the scrolls that were in game, so I ended up using this painting instead. And over here on the other side, I'm just putting in a shelf where there's some like china, I guess, or like porcelain, you know, potteries that are on display here. And by the way, this is the first time I'm using the famous OMSP shelf, otherwise known as the red shelf. A lot of you have been suggesting that I try using it, and I'm glad I finally got to do that in this build because, as I said earlier, there was a lot of clutter in this build and I just had to use it. And yeah, the only furniture in this room is really this big coffee table that is meant to be kind of like a tea ceremony table, and then surrounding it we have these yoga meditation chairs, I guess, from Spa Day. And I really would like to have a Japanese theme pack that had all of the, you know, classic Japanese furniture, because they're just so different, you know. Or maybe even just an East Asian theme pack would be awesome. Right there, we just sped through the whole furnishing process of the genkan, or like the main lobby foyer area in Japanese homes, and that would usually be kind of like the main entrance where you would remove your shoes, because traditionally Japanese don't wear shoes indoors. So in every house there would be this stone floor room, or like earthen floor room, and that's where you would enter and leave your shoes. So that was also on a split level, by the way, which is fully functional, because the split level, there's a couple of rooms in this house that are split level, and I've only done the split level aspect on one foundation level, which makes it possible for the Sims to actually go through different levels of floors without having to use stairs. And there we just put a little alcove in this kind of like main hall area where I put like the altar, otherwise known as a butsudan in Japanese language, and it's kind of like a family altar where they would give offerings to their, you know, departed family members, or like just make traditional offerings and stuff, I guess. Now in my mind, this room is the Great Hall, and traditionally this would have been a tatami room as well. However, over the generations, it has been modernized a little bit to accommodate like Western style furniture. So as you guys can see, for the main living room and dining room in this house, we are using Western looking furniture. Some of them look a little bit Victorian, some of them are modern, which I would say is pretty, you know, it's pretty typical for Japanese houses like this. I didn't have a specific reference for this particular house, even though I did base this floor plan off of a plan that I found on Google. It's great that these houses are becoming more popular for homestays in Japan. Like, you can actually stay in a house like this, and a lot of the floor plans are available on Google, which is great. I also made some references to the house in the anime Summer Wars, which is still one of my favorite animes, by the way. Not necessarily in terms of the design of the house, but more in terms of functionality, wherein it's a family house where multiple generations of the same family live in, and you know, this is kind of shown through the mix of different furniture and just decorative elements. So yeah, I'm really happy with how it all came together. I feel like it's definitely very realistic, very cozy as well. And I definitely made an extra effort to incorporate a lot of personal touches to this as well, such as that wall of achievements where I displayed a lot of like the awards and diplomas, and I just feel like this just came together really nicely. Even though I used a lot of modern Western style furniture, I think it still looked really Japanese in the end. Now we're furnishing the other room on the split level, which is the kitchen. Once again, this room has a stone tile. By the way, I'm pretty sure you guys can probably hear that, but there is an ambulance passing by. Excuse that. I'm gonna pretend like I'm not hearing it, even though it's kind of bothering me. Anyway, this kitchen is pretty small, which is pretty typical for Japanese houses. And yeah, it does open up to the dining room. But yeah, I like how you can see the kitchen all the way from like the main entrance. I really like that. So I didn't make an effort of having to cover this up, even though, I mean, you could probably like put like one of these dividers as like sliding doors. By the way, that's a thing I did in this video. I just use a lot of these like archways, and then inside of it I put like these dividers from university that kind of made it look like they're sliding doors. Obviously they're not, but that's the best way I can do that kind of concept for that. But yeah, I just wanted to make this kitchen very cluttered. Whoever lives here definitely loves to cook, and they definitely, really enjoy cooking for the family as well. So I did put a lot of clutter in here. Nothing too crazy, but I feel like it does give this place a lot of character. I imagine a lot of these like utensils have been, collected over the years, and yeah, I feel like, it's very refreshing to see like a Japanese style generations home. I did have so much fun building this, and I actually got so much inspiration. I really would like to do a series of Japanese builds. If you guys would like to see that, let me know. I will have to see how this video does, because I think it's gonna be a lot more fun for me if people actually enjoy it. But like I said earlier, I did do a lot of research on this, and I just have so many ideas for Japanese builds that I'm so excited about. So here we're furnishing the main bathroom in this house, and basically this is also connected to the laundry area, which is a typical layout in Japanese homes. Even in modern ones, usually the bathroom and the toilet are located in two separate areas. Initially, I wanted this bathing area to be on a split level, but I really needed to incorporate this shower, so I had to get rid of that split level because I wasn't sure if the shower worked. So just to make everything functional, I just made it into this foundation level. But yeah, it's pretty small, pretty standard for Japanese style houses. I would say that it's probably a little bit more modern. I've seen traditional Japanese bathrooms that have like a wooden bathtub, but like I said earlier, I wanted this house to kind of be a mix of, contemporary and traditional elements. Now we are furnishing the other tatami room in this house, and this is meant to be like a grandparents' bedroom. The reason I'm putting one of the bedrooms downstairs is because obviously if it's meant for a grandparent, they would probably have a lot of difficulty using the stairs to go up, especially every day if they have to do that. So I feel like this is a pretty realistic and practical way to have it. Also, since they're like a little bit older, or a lot older than some of the residents in this house, I would say that they would prefer to stay in a more traditional room. Even though this room also can double as an office, it's not really a functional bedroom because there's no bed in here. Instead, I put a futon using this enlarged towel basically, and yeah, this is a pretty standard feature of Japanese houses. A lot of Japanese traditional rooms don't really have a lot of furniture. Instead, they use like furniture that's like temporary, so rooms can have multiple functionalities. So a dining room can also be a bedroom depending on which furniture you put in there. But I also incorporated like a little office area for the grandparent. In my mind, it's a grandpa, and they used to be like, I don't know, maybe an office worker or like a journalist. In my mind, they're a journalist. That's why we have those office pieces from Get to Work. They're a little bit dated looking, but I feel like they work really well for this vibe as well. And now we're furnishing kind of like the main toilet area, and obviously the Japanese are famous for having these high-tech toilets that even some of the developed Western countries don't have, so I knew that I definitely had to use one of the toilets from City Living, the one that you can talk to, which I find a little bit weird. But yeah, I don't think I've ever used one of those toilets in a build before, so how appropriate was it to have one in this Japanese build. I feel like it was very appropriate, in my own personal opinion. But now we're working on the master bedroom. I feel like out of all of the bedrooms in this house, this is probably the most boring one, but I didn't feel like cutting it out because it was the master's bedroom. But yeah, there's really nothing in it, just an office area and a really comfortable bed from Seasons. Moving on to the teen bedroom. I've been sharing a lot about this bedroom on Twitter because it's probably my favorite out of all of the bedrooms in this house. And I definitely see this bedroom for like a teenager, maybe like a shoujo anime / manga heroine. For those of you guys who don't know, shoujo manga is kind of like comic books that are like geared towards like a female audience. So a lot of them would be like romantic comedies and, you know, like something about romance. And I basically see this as kind of like your standard room for a heroine for that kind of manga. And yes, I do love watching anime. At this point, I've probably watched hundreds of animes, to be honest with you guys. That's the thing. I feel like in some countries, watching anime is a little bit stigmatized. Luckily, I come from a country where anime is pretty mainstream compared to, you know, some other like Western countries, because when I was growing up in the Philippines, we would get anime on all of the major local networks, and they would be dubbed in Filipino, and all of the kids watch anime. Like, it's just a part of our childhood. I watched as much anime growing up as I did watching shows from the Disney Channel, just to give you guys some context. So it's pretty mainstream for us. I'm not sure if it's still mainstream nowadays, because I don't think I've seen as much anime now, but when I was growing up, anime was huge. Let me tell you, like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Beyblade, all of that stuff, Naruto was huge, and literally every single kid from my class has seen at least one anime. And yeah, so yeah, just to give you guys a little bit of a context, because I feel like in some countries watching anime is viewed as a bad thing. Luckily, that isn't the case in the country where I live. So yeah, my favorite aspect of this room is definitely this like little table, I guess, like in the middle. That's usually like where the heroine would like study, I guess, and there would be like some romantic scenes of her and her love interest, you know, like just studying or cramming for school. That's a really popular theme for like anime episodes as well. So that was kind of like my favorite aspect of that. I feel like that teen bedroom is probably a lot more interesting than the master bedroom, to be honest. But here we are moving on to the kids' bedroom, and the most interesting part of this room would probably be the fact that I used this camping bed. By the way, I think that sleeping bags would be a great alternative for futons if they can't really incorporate futons for some strange reason. I think just giving us like sleeping bags would be great, but I found that bed from Outdoor Retreat and it looks so much like a Japanese futon that I had to use it. I did use two of them. They are blocking the way to the other side of this room, so some of you might want to move it. Also, I feel like the red is a little bit intense, but that's the only color that I could see really working. That bed didn't come in a lot of swatches, unfortunately, so I had to make do with that really, really bright crimson red color, but it's fine. At the end of the day, I'm really happy with how it looks. And I think that's pretty much it for all of the interior. And now we're moving on to kind of like furnishing this balcony area, which I did take a little bit of time to furnish as well. But I just put in a bunch of like plants over there, a bunch of debug stuff. There's really nothing to do in that balcony. If you really want to do something in there, I would suggest maybe like putting a bonsai tree, because that balcony only has a 1 tile wide hallway, so there's really nothing much you can do there. Moving on to the outside, we're just adding in some extra like houses or like extra structures in this main property. Now this is another like structure that I would say is a little bit more typical for older Japanese houses. This is a kura, or a storehouse. Now traditionally Japanese houses were made of wood and paper, and because of that it was pretty common for them to catch on fire, which made structures like this Kura storehouse necessary, because this is where the owners would keep their valuable belongings in case their main house caught on fire. They would still be able to keep their valuables here and keep them safe, basically. So kuras were made out of stone material. In rural areas, they would also have been used to keep crops like wheat and rice. But in this house, since we were going for a more, contemporary house, I made it into like a shed or like a workshop, I guess. So inside I put like just a bunch of storage, and I also put like a workbench in there as well. And yeah, I did take some time to furnish this as well, but obviously I just had to cut it out because this video was just becoming a little bit too long for my liking. But yeah, I'm really happy that I was able to make this functional as well. And then to the left of the storehouse, there's just a little canopy that is from Jungle Adventures, and that's just a little canopy for like parking, I guess, for like cars. But now we're moving on to the landscaping. Once again, another one of my favorite aspects of this build. So I used these huge trees from Debug. One of them is from Basecamp and the other one is from Get Together. And since this house is meant to be an older house, I feel like we just had to use those just gigantic trees that are probably centuries old. And then I put like this hedge in front, even though I didn't really like put a lot of like fencing on this house, because I did see this as more of like a rural countryside home. So we all know that the Japanese people are so honest. Like, robberies aren't really common in Japan. I think Japan has one of the lowest robbery rates in like developed countries. You can literally leave your valuable belongings like anywhere and nobody will take it. You'll probably find it in like a lost and found somewhere. That's just how it works in Japan, which is amazing, right? So I didn't really put like a lot of fencing in here. I just put some hedges, and I love that little fence area in the main entrance. There's like a little bonsai there, and I actually replaced that fence with a more rustic looking one eventually. But here I'm just putting in this like little garden, which is directly outside of this like tea room, I guess. And this is where I put like some more colorful foliage, some more like autumn colored like trees and stuff. But for the landscaping, I just kept it really like natural, maybe a little bit overgrown, because whoever lives here probably doesn't have a lot of time to care about that. In my mind, the grandfather is retired, the kids all go to school, and then the parents are pretty busy with work. So yeah, just to give you guys an idea of the people I saw living in this house. But here we're furnishing kind of like this backyard area, which is another one of my favorite aspects. On one side we have like just an open space where I would see them like doing laundry. This is where I put like the clotheslines. By the way, in Japan, having clothes dryers is very uncommon. Instead, most Japanese prefer to air dry their clothes, so you will see a lot of like clotheslines everywhere, even in modern homes, even in apartments. That's a thing, because we also do that in our apartment. We have a dryer actually as part of our like washing machine, but we still prefer to air dry our laundry. I don't know. But yes, this is the bonsai garden, which is something that I'm so proud of, and I'm so happy to finally be able to do here in The Sims, because I have not seen anyone do it. And that's a thing. It's a very personal for me as well, because my dad actually keeps bonsais. We literally have dozens of bonsais in our family home where I grew up in, and yeah, I grew up surrounded by bonsais. It's my dad's hobby, and I didn't realize how like fun having bonsais in The Sims 4 was actually, because there's different styles you can actually make them depending on your Sims moods. So that was kind of fun to discover, and I've only discovered them as I was doing this build, so I definitely had a lot of fun with that as well. But yeah, this is kind of just a bonsai display area. I also made this little shed where they would probably like keep the bonsais, like if there's like bad weather or something. I just put that shed over there. I really like the shed as well. It does give it a very Japanese vibe. And then we are just putting in this like walkway using these like rock like pathways, I guess. These are from Debug, and I'm so happy I got to use them here. They're so nice. I feel like they're also very Japanese as well. I feel like they are. They look like things I would see in like a Zen garden or something. So I'm really happy that I got to incorporate those as well. And then there's really nothing here on the front yard. I just put like a stone, like some rock formations over here, nothing else, and then just putting in a bike over here in front. Right, so that's going to be it for this build. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you did, please let me know in the comments below, and also don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, and also share this video if you want other people to see this Japanese house as well. Other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this commentary right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. You all have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.